So this is what I worked on today. I ripped out an old culvert. It wasn't draining at all, but that wasn't really the reason why to rip it out. The farmer here, he didn't have much of a field crossing, so it was hard to access his field. The culvert was short, and then there was hardly any fill over top of it. So they brought in this bigger culvert. I'm not sure what size that is. I know it's about 36 inch, but I'm not sure what that is in metric. I can't remember. And I replaced this old 18 inch, or I think that's 450 millimeter culvert. And when I pulled it out, it just crumpled. It just fell right apart. It had a floodgate on it that was kind of half buried too. So this is probably from a farmer running it over with his trucks and tractors. So unfortunately, I couldn't save that one because I was going to give it to the ATV club if it was any decent. But it just crumpled like paper pretty much. So we put this big one in, and it didn't take too much to put it together. I was surprised. Sometimes they're a fucking bitch to put these galvanized ones together. I like the poly ones. But so then I saved whatever clay I could, so I've got capping on the end here and on the other side as well. I also had a dam on that side and on the other side. And we're right by a municipal lagoon system here. I think that's the lagoon for town of Oakbank. And you can't smell anything now. The wind's out of the south, and when the honey wagons do dump like that one is right now, the wind's blowing it to the north, thank God. And but the water here, I bailed the water out with the bucket, or I call it the 66 inch pump, and I bailed the water out. Holy fuck, did it stink. It's well, I guess I know where they drain their lagoons through. Ugh. So I set up the laser receiver on the excavator here and got my grade that way. The culvert's not quite how I want it centered, but the ditch isn't exactly on the ball either. It's kind of all over the place here, so I did the best I could with what I had. And then they hauled in, it was supposed to be gravel or base gravel. It said on the sheet there, and it's not. It's pretty much sand, but it's like pit run without any friggin' rocks in it, so that makes it sand. So we have lots of it here. So whatever, fired it all in, backfilled it, leveled it, made it look kind of pretty, despite things being pretty frozen here. I've got about 6-8 inches of frost, so it's hard to even make a slope on the ditch when it's like this. This looks like a friggin' dog's breakfast. So all the loon shit, I piled that up on the field, and I spread it all out so they can cultivate it in next year. It's pretty chunky stuff and full of ice and everything else. And then the loon shit, water, poop, people poop water, whatever you want to call it, is kind of running that way. But the surveyor guy said that they might be ditching this next year, so I hope I'm not doing this one. I'll fucking quit if I have to ditch that. That stinks. People poop is way far grosser than livestock. So yeah. So now I guess I'm just gonna tidy up and grease this thing. I'm running the Cobelco today. I haven't really run it much in a while. I don't mind running it, but it's kind of a temperamental thing. This thing was a result of the when this thing was built, it was built as a result of the it was like a cooperation between New Holland, or Case New Holland, and Cobelco. So Case New Holland were allowed to stick their piece of shit engine in here. It's a 6-cylinder Fiat Iveco, but this morning we had about -15 temperature here, and it was windy as hell. I think it was -23 with the wind. And so then this thing, you couldn't let it idle. You had to turn the auto idle off, because otherwise it would shut down. It would say there's low oil pressure, when in fact the oil's fine. So I don't know. It's nice to run this thing. Sometimes it's a little bit jerky, and I think it's all because of its electro-hydraulic controls, or electric over hydraulic controls. Whereas I always find the Hitachi to be really smooth. It just doesn't have the balls that this thing does, or even close to it. So I don't know, if we do buy a new one, I don't know what we're going to get. A lot of ways I'm hoping it's going to be a Hitachi, because This thing's been a bit of a lemon, and I'm not sure if they're all like this. We used to have another one, but we had to return it back to the leasing company, unfortunately. It didn't have a thumb on it, which I like much better. This thumb's useless as tits on a board and just makes it too fucking front heavy. So, just be glad to have the wrist to twist. But, I don't know. I'm hoping I can push him towards getting a tilt rotator if we do get a new machine. I kind of want to get a Hyundai 160. I know there's one for sale in Tabor, Alberta. It's got a little dozer blade on it, and get him to take that piece of shit thumb off, and we have actually a pretty good machine. So the little dozer blades come in handy, especially if you're doing brush cutting or anything like that and uneven ground. You can sort of level yourself off. And then you can also do stuff like this and pad in your base material and all that. You know, not heavy dozing, but basically trim dozing. So it'd be nice to see what happens.